Cofunctions. Cofunctions are different than reciprocals, and often I think students confuse them. We know that, you know, sine and cosecant are reciprocals, and cosine and secant and tangent and cotangent, these are reciprocals. You know, different, like, you know, like sine is 1 over cosecant, and secant is 1 over cos, or, you know, for example, sine 30 is 1/2, you know, cosecant 30 is 2 over 1. It's the reciprocal ratio. But that's reciprocals. This is different than cofunctions. Cofunctions are sine and cosine, tangent and cotangent, secant and cosecant. And the really easy way of remembering that is that cosine is the word sine with a co in front of it. Tangent and cotangent, you know, cotangent, and secant and cosecant, you know, cosecant is the word secant with co in front of it. So it's really easy to remember which functions are cofunctions for each other. And basically, what this means is, you know, because sine and cosine are cofunctions, it has to do with, you know, if you had a little triangle, I'll just explain real quick. You know, a right triangle, like say this is angle A and this is angle B, you know, from angle A's perspective, you know, this, or let's draw a 30-60. I'm gonna redo this picture, make this a little bit better. Angle A, angle B, and let's say that angle A is 30 degrees, angle B is 60 degrees. And so from this 30, 60, 90 right triangle, we should know that this would be 1, 2, and rad 3, because sine 30 is 1/2, and cosine 30 is rad 3 over 2, and so on. Anyways, sine 30 equals 1/2, and notice that cosine 60, or, you know, sine A and cosine B, is also 1/2. We're from 30, sine 30 is, you know, 1 over 2. Well, from cosine of 60, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, is 1 over 2. Because when you swap angles, your opposite and adjacent sides switch. So this is the connection that sine of one angle and cosine of the, you know, other acute angle are the same thing. And because it's a right triangle, we see that these angles are always complements of each other. When you have a right triangle, you have one angle that's 90 degrees, and you have two acute angles. But those acute angles add to 90. They're complements of each other. So when it comes to cofunctions, cofunctions are complements of each other. So for this first example here, you know, sine 70 is going to be the same thing as cosine 20, because it's basically the other function from the other angle. That sine 70 and cosine 20 are the same thing, just as, you know, sine 30 is 1/2 and cosine 60 is 1/2, because they're both using the same two sides from the same triangle. These make up your other two angles. And it's really, really easy to check, because you could type in, let me just move this, sine 70, and you're going to get some, you know, random ratio. We'll try cosine 20. You get the same thing. And so you can really check that very easily. For the next example, it's tangent 2x equals cotangent 50. Now you always have to just recognize that, all right, tangent and cotangent together, these are cofunctions. So their values are not going to be equal, they're going to be complements. Just like a problem before, we had 70 and 20. Well, 70 plus 20 equals 90. Well, it's going to be the same thing here, that whatever 2x is plus 50 equals 90. And this is how you could set up your equation and solve from here. Subtract 50, 2x equals 40, and x equals 20. So x equals 20. And so plugged in, this angle would, you know, be 40. Tangent 40, cotangent 50, 40 plus 50 is 90. Again, you could check it very easily in your calculator. The next one, secant and cosecant. These are cofunctions, so their angles or expressions for angles are going to be complements of each other. So don't set them equal to each other. That's the biggest mistake. You set it equal to 90. Again, don't set it equal to 180. Set it equal to 90. Just like these two angles, the other two angles of a right triangle add to 90. And so you get 2x minus 20 equals 90. 2x equals 110. X equals 55. Let's just plug that back in to check. 55 plus 10 would be 65. And 55 minus 30 would be 25. And we see 65 plus 25 add to 90. But again, I could check it in my calculator. I could type in secant 65, cosecant 25, and see they're the same thing. Now, of course, let me just do that real quick. To do secant, I have to do 1 divided by cosine 65. And for cosecant, 1 divided by sine 25. And I see I get the same, ratio for both of them, so I know my work is correct.